All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. This is your host, Brandon, Joe, my co-host, Nick and Dan. And gentlemen, we've got the Nottingham Forest match review. As we hurriedly wrap this season up, Dan, we still have a couple more that we're checking boxes off on, and this was definitely a participation trophy.
Look, the players are still showing up. So, in turn, we are going to continue to show up because that is what we do. This is not the 15-16 season of London is Blue podcast, Nick. We don't take a match off anymore.
No, we didn't. And look, I mean, at least we have goals to talk about. That's, it's a pleasant surprise in this day and age.
But before we get into all that other stuff, when I say back to back to back, when I say backflips, when I say heroics, what do you think of?
Not the Chelsea men's team.
No.
Hey, why do you got to take a shot, Dan? Why can't you just leave it all positive?
Because I want to do more to build up how incredible what we had a chance to witness this weekend was in the Chelsea women winning a third FA Cup title in a row at Wembley. Record domestic attendance in England for a women's game, and they did it once again, 1-0 over Manchester United, rivals in the league. The individuals currently atop the table as Chelsea look to climb it at the very, very end of the season here. And Nick, it's great. It's great times to be a Chelsea supporter, at least for the women's team, with how they're continuing to hopefully here line up a third back-to-back-to-back domestic double if they get the league across the line as well.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You guys know that we have the Blue Royalty podcast. We've been covering the women for the last couple of years, and it is an absolute joy to watch them. It's stressful at times, as this was today. Not an easy game for the Chelsea women, but at the end of the day, Sam Kerr is inevitable. Emma Hayes is inevitable. This team's winning mentality is inevitable. And that's trophy number 14 for Emma, just in case you're keeping track at home. That's number 10, I think, for Magda, which is incredible. Oof. And look, there is so much going on at Chelsea Football Club in the men's first team sphere that we're going to talk about a lot this summer. But if you truly don't take a moment to appreciate the growth of women's football and the incredible team that Chelsea have assembled to win the FA Cup and League potentially 3 times in a row is unheard of. I mean, it's incredibly difficult. 78,000 at Wembley. I think there were 48 some odd thousand, Dan, when we were there last year for the final. I mean, it's just blown up, and a huge credit to all involved there. Just can't say enough nice things about them. And if you're looking to watch a Chelsea team win a football match, they are your best bet.
Without a doubt. Super exciting. We'll have the full match review, as usual, out on the feed, so make sure you check out Blue Royalty. Again, it was not clean and cut for them. They had to battle through this one, especially after a tough first half. But anyways, let's go. We've teased that appropriately. They are absolutely fantastic. Again, Sam Kerr really competing with Didier Drogba with the Wembley-esque record.
Yeah, she really is. And listen to Blue Royalty this week because Jesse was at the match, and I'm sure we'll have an absolutely rapturous account of the day's events. So
we need the recap of the Box Park post-game experience. That is the request that we have for Jesse, is make sure that there are details. I mean, last year, Chelsea women's team did show up.
They partied there. It was awesome.
They partied hard.
All right. Well, Dan, let's go ahead and move back to the men's match review here with the 3-word match review. As always, see what the people have to say. Hey, today ain't that day, Dan. All right. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. All right. Let's hold on to what we have.
Could have been worse. Right. My 3-word match review.
Oh, thanks for getting yours out of the way early, Brandon. Look, Canyon had the Raz has Riz. You had Jason with Brace Ain't Enough. Tom with the 10 good minutes. You had Kieran with the Cobham Crew Assemble. Ryan with the season's final point. That could be very true. And then Iron Beagle with the next season, please.
Jeez. Put a punctuation on that one. I went with playing for valuation. That's pretty much where we're at right now. A lot of players out there trying to earn themselves a spot somewhere around Europe next season. Dan, what about you?
You guys know the unfinished horse meme?
Yes.
Okay, well, this game is Chelsea's unfinished horse because, boy, oh boy, there should have been enough to walk away with a win, but some of the drawing, a little lacking.
Yeah, there you go, Nick.
New Maurizio season.
Yeah, yep. All right, there that one is. So,
Get it, guys? Do you understand what I did there? Unbelievable.
All right. Appreciate all of those. Huge shout outs to Eric. Join us on Patreon. See you in the Discord. Apple Podcast 5-star reviews. Some Zacharias, J-Man, Lumi Rose, Pitt Contact, and Brett Canada from, you guessed it, Canada. Spotify, well over 2,000 reviews. Still at 4.9. Road to 3K is there. So let's kick it off with the match review. It was Nottingham Forest this past Saturday, the 13th of May in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge. In case you missed it, Chelsea 2, Nottingham Forest 2. Goals from, I don't know, Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
It's Awanini.
Awani, Sterling, then Awani again. Just a couple of braces for the two guys. So we'll kick it over to the fifth stand-up, the only official app from Chelsea FC where they break all their news first. If you haven't downloaded it, do it. Let's run it back. Oh, buddy, Dan, you got lineup time, and you will not be able to copy and paste much on this one.
Well, there were a few repeats from the last performance, but it was Edouard Mendy between the sticks. That was semi-shocker. You had Trevoh Chalobah, Thiago Silva, Benoit Badiashile, and Lewis Hall as a back four with Conor Gallagher, Enzo Fernandez, and Mateo Kovacic as midfielders, with Raheem Sterling, Madueke, and Joao Felix as your attacking trio. We saw Ruben Loftus-Cheek come in at halftime from Mateo Kovacic, and then you saw Kai Havertz and Hakim Ziyech come in the latter late second half, 73rd minute. Kepa, Azpilicueta, Fofana, Mudryk, David Datro Fofana making the bench, and then Christian Pulisic all as unused substitutes in this game.
Yeah, well, the academy season's over, so DDF is back in play for the bench. The list of players that are kind of done for the season is continuing to grow, Chilwell being added to that list, so it was good to hear the club pre-talking up Lewis Hall, who again is played center mid all season in the academy. He is deputizing as a left back out of position. So a friendly reminder to everybody who thinks maybe he is a left wing back. He is not. Some of the top line stats, 1.17 XG to 1.3. We actually lost on that one, but hey, we didn't lose the game. We had 76% possession on that one. 14 shots there, 11, 6 on target to their 2. And other than that, we had 2 big chances there, 3, and we both missed one of them. I don't know. It's all a bit all right, if you don't mind me saying it myself, but at OptaJoe had the one random stat with 4. Chelsea have failed to win 4 of their 6 Premier League games against newly promoted sides this season. Win 2, draw 3, lost 1. The Blues have never failed to win more such games in a single Premier League campaign. Toothless. I mean, Nick, duh. We know that. That's where we've been. We lose not only to the good teams this season, we even lose to the bad teams.
Yeah, we either get a really stout defensive display with character and a spine, or we get some sort of offensive production, but never both at the same time. And that's pretty much the story of this one.
Yeah. Obviously, no NPET shithouse moment of the match. Is that fair? Yeah.
No.
All right. Well, we've got a lot more coming at you this way, but we've set the stage. A lot to get into with some new, fresh faces. So we're going to take our ad break. When we get back, jumping into breaking it down. Think of the sponsors. Okay. First half time. I think, we talked about Mendy a little bit. He'll be a big talking point for multiple different reasons, gentlemen. I think we're all hoping it was a matter of time of when, not if, he was going to play it this season. I realistically don't see any reason, as long as he stays fit, you don't play him for the last 3 remaining games. Give him the last 4, just see where he's at. Kepa has had a ton of matches this season. We largely know what he can give you. So, Dan, from your perspective, a little bit of a big difference, actually, having him back there. He had a back four in front of him, which is pretty settled for the most part. If you have Thiago and Badiashile, like you're pretty well sorted there. They're all speaking French, I'd imagine, as well. So good on the communication. But it ended up not being a great day out for him. But he hasn't played in so long. So I guess I'm interested in kind of what your perspective, or I'm sorry, what your expectations of him were for today after coming in.
To claim crosses, because that is something that he has done a better job of over his Chelsea career relative to Kepa. I mean, it's a height benefit. So what was surprising, I think he had one where he kind of like had punched it away pretty far, and that was one maybe you would have hoped that he would have been able to get up and claim. I mean, you definitely are not expecting him to do a lot kind of with his feet at the ball in terms of distribution necessarily. So I was just looking for him to basically be, I mean, there's like baseball's like wins over average replacement. Basically to be like at Kepa's level in terms of where he was coming back from. And this felt like he probably still has a lot of rust to knock off in terms of getting back up to speed, which is completely understandable when you've been out injured for the majority of the season and have been only getting back into it from a training perspective. Like, there's not a lot of good times to drop somebody in. And right now, when you know that you've secured safety for the next season, there's nothing really left to play for. You're not going to get into a European spot, Nick. This, to Brandon's point, felt like the right time to drop him in and the right stretch to let him continue and see where is he at, especially with the conversation around maybe there being a stalemate on a contract renewal offer for him or not.
Yeah, the first goal was pretty bad. He didn't get anywhere close to it, and in fact bulldozed his own players after missing the ball in a pretty clumsy fashion. The second goal's not on him. The second goal's on man marking. To get a header that close to the goal mouth is almost impossible to stop, and so I don't blame him for the second one, Brandon. But I think as the preeminent member of the goalkeepers union, what were your thoughts on old Edouard? And do you believe that Chelsea are going to move on this summer and try and get themselves a true number one?
Well, I mean, now that we essentially know that Poch is coming in, I think it'll be interesting of what they want to do, because there's at times they were playing high possession, other times they didn't. So it's not like Maurizio Sarri's coming in where you're like, oh yeah, this is 100% isn't going to work. So I don't know quite yet. What I would say about Mendy is like the timing of crosses with bodies in the box is the hardest thing to do in terms of like come back from recovery. So like shot stopping is relatively easy and it's relatively easy to train. Crosses and timings are difficult, which I think is true. What I find is interesting is that everyone's mad at Mendy because he was a half step late. But like neither center back did the job either. And I think that was something that Seb C was a little upset about on Twitter with Thiago Silva's ability to defend aerially, which I guess, I can understand his aerial ability, his wane, but we've all seen how well he reads the game and his ability to recover and a tackle and some things like that. So whatever.
Shields' aerial ability is great, and he still missed it too.
Yeah. But I would say that like if you're gonna see a hesitation or missteps, like this is exactly what I would expect out of Mendy, is like struggling on crosses, getting through traffic, bodies, timing, confidence especially. So it's not an excuse, but it is something I'm like, okay, great. That's why I also want to see 3 more games. Like, don't put him back on the bench, be like, oh, he made a mistake. Like, you need to put him out there for 3 more games. Also because stick or twist, to your question, Nick, you got to know. Was this a one-off or is this his new mean? The teams that are potentially going to be looking at Edouard Mendy are going to want to have a bit of a sample at the end of the season to know where he's at, so they're not taking as big of a gamble. So we'll have to see. But, he did some other things well. Overall, as a pretty average game, but he's been out for an extremely long amount of time. So, he's going to get a wobble. Unfortunately, he's a goalkeeper. Costs you goals. So that is fair. Overall, the Trevoh looked quite good at right back, by the way. If we're going to give praise. I mean, I think we've said
don't get too much into the second part of the stock watch.
Oh my gosh! Fine. Let me scroll.
Can we talk Hall really quick?
Well, absolutely can. I was going to go right to left. We can go left to right though. That is a little bit more appropriate.
Like obviously, Hall's been put into an awkward position here, right? You know, he's been deployed mainly as a left wing back in a back 5/3, and was really only responsible for covering a more limited area and trying to get forward to put in service. I know that he created 3 chances yesterday offensively, and I think at times looked good. I do not think it is fair to judge Lewis Hall as a left back defensively. If you're of that persuasion, you're like, wow, this kid is just not really good. Like Brandon said this earlier, he's a left-footed central midfielder who has been in the academy side, has been deployed there, and then at the Premier League level has been asked to play left back. And yeah, I don't think he had the best day out necessarily, personally, but like I think you have to couch all the criticism that you might have for that performance with the fact that he's 19 and I think has played more Premier League minutes this season than we have ever thought possible, and that's largely due to injury and poor performances by other players in the team. So I just kind of want to couch that. Like, I hope he sees a lot of game time through the end of the season. It kind of feels like he will at this point, and that will be fantastic for him as a player, getting acclimated to the level of opposition, especially if he plays against United, City, and Newcastle. But if he struggles, just chill out, okay? Just chill out, because this is not an ideal situation at any level, Brandon. And I could hear Chelsea youth like screaming into a pillow yesterday about some of the tweets that I saw. Just everyone bring it down for a second, okay?
So
that's all.
Yeah, and I think that's a great call out, right? Because Lewis, I'm trying to find his last game. He didn't play against Brighton for the academy, but either way, let's say it was Tottenham Hotspur U21 versus Chelsea's U21s. And then you come into a match. Yep, it was there. He played 69 minutes. And this was back on the 24th of April. Few weeks ago. He hasn't played. He's still been training with the first team. To go into a match, Dan, where Nottingham Forest are fighting tooth and nail to stay out of the relegation zone, it is going to be a big difference for him as well. The pace, the intensity. Gibbs White is having a great season, right? And he's one of their creative attackers that's playing on that side. Awani is a big dude, right? Compared to Lewis Hall. Serge Aurier, we know what kind of a career he's had as well. Like, it wasn't the easiest days out. And here's my final caveat. He's 18. He's 18. If any of you would like to go walk out on the pitch as an 18-year-old, be my guest. I think we would all be in a tough situation. And what I love most about Lewis Hall is that he didn't get rattled throughout the game. And I think that's just kind of his demeanor. He doesn't really get caught in the ups and downs of a game. He just sticks to his task and he does it as best as he can. And if you get a 7 out of 10 from him for the rest of the season, that's a really good showing for a guy who's been playing U21 football all season, minus a few appearances.
It's different comparing Lewis to Chilwell or even Cucurella, because when you look at the amount of Premier League minutes that they have had just in general, not necessarily even positionally based, you look at the fact that, Lewis is getting close to around 400 minutes across 6 matches this season. And then you look at, Cucurella, who's at 1,600 with 24 appearances, but also lifetime total of almost 60 matches and he's appeared in the Premier League. It's just different scales. And I think that that's a challenging part of the analysis, is when you have to have a little bit of a sliding scale on how you evaluate a player who has had sub 400 minutes in a season, and where they've kind of played in and out of position. and how a more senior player is going to be evaluated in his side. And I think that was something that people were trying to conflate in terms of drag and drop player performance based upon position. And it is not a simple math equation, right? This is more algebraic in the way that you have to evaluate Lewis's performance versus like Kukureya's or Chilwell's in the same area.
Overall, I guess, we didn't really talk about this, when the lineup first dropped, but quite a few changes from Lampard in general. Kovacic back in, Madueke's continued his form, but Raheem Sterling and Felix up top, no Kai Havertz. He came on as a sub. He's someone we've seen a lot of. Fofana, we've seen a lot of. Mudryk has gotten a little bit of a run. Still absolutely no sign whatsoever of Pulisic. I just think everybody should let that be the standard. For whatever reason, we're probably not going to see him the rest of the season. But Frank continuing to tinker and just try different things. But I would say it does look to me writ large. The first half we struggled, settled in the second half though, Nick, is that the team is starting to find some type of unity a little bit at times. The problem is still consistency, but at least the players seem to be speaking the same language, whether or not it's coming off.
Yeah, it would have been hard to have a worse half than the first half. So I was happy to see that they came out with a little bit of fire in their belly. Obviously, I mean, the pace of play picked up in the second half. It was much quicker. The ball's moving around. The players were triangulating each other a little bit better. Felix in the first half, I think, was making some really terrible runs, was losing the ball a lot. He picked up his performance considerably in the second half. Obviously, we'll talk about Sterling's goals in a second, but the right-hand side was a lot more threatening too, with Madueke and Trevoh doing a lot of overlapping, a lot of running. And I think we kind of spread them out a little bit. Forest are trying their best to keep everything in front of them, right? They're trying to play that block that we're so used to seeing. Chelsea having 75% of possession, like it's a pretty standard operating procedure. But I thought that the way that we tried to break them down, Dan, was to get overlaps on the wings, to cut the ball back, and that led to the first goal.
Yeah, you did see. Again, we won't talk too much about Chalobah because I wanted to save him for the stock watch up. But you saw.
I'm having a hard time with that. I'm be honest with you, but I'm trying.
We're trying something different.
I hear you
for the end of the season here. You guys asked for a different script format. I delivered.
Mine's in Spanish.
Ole. Well, the overlapping runs on both sides. I actually felt like there wasn't a lot of issue with maybe some of the same confusion we saw about players maybe getting into each other's way. I think we saw a little bit of that, like with Mudryk and Chilwell, not necessarily finding where each other should or shouldn't be at times. And I felt like this was a step forward in that sense of being able to combine on each of the flanks, where players were finding good areas to get into and then making themselves available for others to pass into. And so that was nice to your point, Nick.
I think the pace, the performance, Ruben had to come on for Kovacic. Is that right? Am I?
Yep.
Yeah. He obviously picked up a knock, had to go. Ruben slotted in gracefully, I would say. Which again just reminds you, if you can bring a Ruben Loftus-Cheek off the bench to just slot in, if you can bring a Trevoh, a Lewis Hall, all these types of players, and like the level doesn't drop and you're getting 30 some minutes, like that's a great place to be.
Ruben was great too. I mean, I like, of course, the assist to Sterling, who did a lot to cut back onto his right foot and slot in the second goal, which was by far his best moment in a Chelsea shirt this season. But Ruben did the driving in midfield. And this is 2 games in a row where he's come on and looked completely dominant in midfield and one thing about Ruben is like he's not going to be a CDM. That's not who he is. But he has improved his positioning a lot over the years, and I think he's improved his tackling a lot. And he still has that little burst to get by midfield opposition. And if you watch that second Sterling goal again, it's all him driving, and Sterling making the right run at the right time to receive the ball, obviously doing a lot to finish it. But it's that kind of thing that has been missing from our midfield a lot this season. And I don't know why we haven't seen Ruben play that side more. It reminded me a lot of the Sarri time when Maurizio Sarri was here, because Ruben played that left-sided number 8 a lot in the second half of that season and looked just dynamite before obviously getting his Achilles done in that friendly in Boston. But yeah, I was really pleased for him because we need that physical presence. Kovacic was not getting it done in the first half.
He's had 7 appearances since February 15th, right? So he had a long streak in April, missed, probably had a nagging injury, some things like that. But we've also seen the amount, like, Ruben's hungry, Dan. He's posting on Instagram the workouts he's doing with his personal trainer. Like, he's not sitting back and just like kind of accepting a bench role. Like, he's continuing to try to do everything he can to get himself to be in a good physical condition to play at this level. And it's kind of funny. We always say this, right? Ruben's only 27. Like, he's only 27. Obviously had a career riddled with injuries. The fact that this season he's played right back, he's played defensive mid, he's played center mid, he's played right mid. I'm pretty sure he played sweeper in a cup match. Swiss Army knife extraordinaire. We're starting to see some good appearances, beautiful assist. But Ruben's, I don't know. We've gone back and forth on so many KSLs what to do with him, but like, he's not doing anything to hurt himself whatsoever.
Squad composition wise, maybe this is too early from like a keeps alone type of. I keep him as a squad player. Like, he gives you a little bit of everything and can come in a pinch and help support. I don't see the need to move on unless, from a contract / wage standpoint, it's just maybe a little, he's on the old style of wages and contracts and not maybe the new modified approach that the club has taken. And so maybe there is some conversation in the summer about what that looks like. If he wants to continue playing with Chelsea and wants to be a part of the project and the rebuild and what Pochettino is going to do, I'm all for it. I think that you're going to need people who've been around the team and understand the identity of Chelsea, particularly as we continue to bring in, more new players from likely outside of the Premier League who don't have that same connection to the club.
I just real quick sprinted back to the Champions League final with Spurs under Poch, and they did have Sissoko in the midfield because I'm trying to understand what kind of profiles of players. And I think like Ruben and Sissoko could be, somewhat comparable as far as driving the ball, sit in, play, good passer. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. The final note is Kai and Hakim came on late. Didn't really do much, but again, it was late from them. Hakim Ziyech continuing to get these minutes late in the season. As we said, Pulisic nowhere to be found. Kai getting some minutes, which I think is fine. You give Felix some minutes. He was also on a caution. I don't know if anyone else was a little bit nervy at the end, how he was doing. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm cool if Felix just comes off so we don't risk an accidental second caution.
He blasted the ball. I was like, what are
Okay, by the way, it hit his arm, right? Am I missing something?
No,
it definitely did not hit his face.
It did not hit his face
gotcha.
at all, but it was like stupid.
Yeah.
It was stupid to do. And I was like, what? Again, Felix has a little bit of the mist to him, a little bit of the I'm frustrated, I'm not playing well, the team's not playing well, I'm going to do something a little crazy. And that works if you're Diego Costa scoring 20 goals a season. It doesn't really work if you're not. So, just something to kind of consider there.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't know, Dan, Ziyech continued to get some minutes. Madueke probably, needed a breather, and that's fine. But I'm assuming there's definitely some influence behind the scenes going into some of these lineup decisions and substitution decisions and why they're playing some players and not others. Mudryk is one for the future, but have they seen enough? They know he's good. Pulisic, nowhere to be found. Interesting, I guess, subs from that perspective. You can't convince me otherwise that there aren't bigger conversations happening about who should play based on potential futures at this point.
It would be really bad if Christian got injured at this point in the season. Wink, in terms of those type of conversations maybe that are filtering down. Look, we can try to read into it all we can. I mean, I think that, a fair number of these make sense in terms of seeing who you need to see some additional minutes on. Obviously, as we maybe get into the, after talk about the stock up, stock down, and maybe talk about Pochettino coming in, that, that also might influence who we see over the next couple of games. If there's players that he wants to get in at last read on before the end of the season. So I'm sure, people talk, so I'm sure there's some type of influence.
The last 90 minutes Pulisic played was March 27th against El Salvador for the United States. So he hasn't also played since April 15th against Brighton, and he got hooked after 56 minutes. Other than that, it's all 29 minutes, 10 minutes, 60 minutes, 17 minutes, 7, 22 minutes. So we'll have to see how things shake out. But anyways, we're going to take our second ad break when we're back. The Summer Stock Watch finally unleashed the Chalobah. Thank you to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. Okay, finally, we're here. We're talking about players on the rise in Trevoh Chalobah, the man who loves to cut a long sleeve off at the elbow and rock it. Are right back. This heat map is absolutely insane.
They make them like that, right?
Dude, he cut his. You can see it, it's not straight. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Wait till you see it. You got to keep those biceps warm. Trevoh played right back. I'd say he's had some kind of if up and down performances, but nothing that really hurts us. He's been put in some tough situations this season. Absolutely imperious today. And I felt like Nick, it looked like he'd been able to train as a right back for a little bit because he knew when to overlap. He knew when to take people on. It seemed like instead of being thrown in at right back, it was like, no, I'm going to be a right back. And it looked really good. And it's like, holy shit, could we have a bit of a tall right back to help us with height and defending set pieces and just create mismatches around the park? And he looked good.
Yeah, I mean, we know that he has strength in defense and that, there's been a couple of wobbles this season, but overall, I'd say his tenure at Chelsea has been absolutely fantastic. And this was a really great day out for him. He was overlapping incredibly well. He got the first assist, kind of riding all the way down to the touchline. And I'm just consistently going to be a fan of his. I love Trevoh. And I think, if we're talking about guys that Mauricio Pochettino is probably looking at as valuable assets to have around in many different circumstances. He's played right center back. He's played defensive midfield for Chelsea. He's played right back. He's played left center back. He'd probably play goalkeeper if you asked him to. He's one of those glue guys that I would guess is very popular in the locker room, very fun to be around, and also can put in a tackle when you need him to. Know that he's battled some health challenges this year, Dan, but I think you'd be silly if you're Bully, Igbali, and the more importantly the sporting directors club at the club to let him go. So that's just a call out there.
Yeah, we've seen the fact that Chelsea would not stand in the way if Thiago Silva would want to return home. He obviously had a wonderful display from the shed end in terms of the tifo that was unveiled for him, which was really, really special. He Bell Silva reiterated that they're not looking to leave, but obviously anything can change.
Tier 1 source, Bell Silva.
Tier 0. Anything can change between now and the end of the season and even into the early part of summer. So I just think that if it is a back four, which if you go back and listen to the 2-hour special that Sam and I did on Poch and what he would look to do at Chelsea, back four more likely than a back three, you are going to need a complement of individuals, and Trev is someone who gives you positional flexibility across a multitude of different positions. He played DM on loan previously. He's capable of doing right back now. He's capable of playing across a back three. In general, very good player to have in your side, and that's even with the addition of Levi Colwill coming back into this Chelsea team. Again, a lot of strange things could happen, Brandon, with balancing the books and who needs to go, and a single academy player sale could effectively be 30, 40, 50 million pounds in terms of positive dollars on the books. So again, nothing is out of the realm of possible. The realm of possible exists where Trevoh Chalobah could be sold. I just feel like, to me, at the moment, it would feel like a less likely decision given how he's showing that he can do it across multiple positions.
Keep your appreciating assets. Get rid of your depreciating assets. He is on the rise. There's really no rush to move him out, right? Like, he's 23. We've seen a lot of good stuff from him. Consistency is the only thing that's lacked. Raheem Sterling, he's on the rise. But this is like a short rise, right? This is the first time in a long time we've really seen the Raheem that we thought we signed in the summer. 2 goals, coming off of a 0.09 XG and a 0.21 XG. So again, who posted, the XG philosophy? I don't know if you guys saw this. They posted the chart of all the teams on the left column of what they actually are on points. And on the right column is what their points would have been if they had achieved their XG. Obviously, we're massively underperforming. But it's also because we're not getting, it's also not because we're not even getting these types of things. So Raheem showed us what we got, an experienced attacker up top, learning how to receive from the midfield, which again is about the consistent language as a team. We'll have to see, but it is like flashes at the end of the season. I could see, Nick, that, again, we're talking about the pressure of such a shocking season being lifted. The players are maybe able to kind of release some of those demons and just play a little bit more naturally, because they clearly have not been for most of the season.
Yeah, I mean, we know he can score. He's scored a lot of goals in his time playing football. He's been around since I think he was 16 or 17 at Liverpool. So we know he can do this. It's just it's been a bit of a mess for him this year. And again, I think we have this problem of every single winger that we have, bar Nani, wanting to play in that like left winger role and cut back on the right foot. That's what all of them want to do, every single one of them. So good luck figuring that out with our 9 left wingers at the club. Good for him that he scored today. I think people are mad that Mudryk isn't playing, but again, when you get 2 goals from Sterling off the left, maybe he should have been playing there all year. I don't know.
You're gonna want Sterling to be around the team in a good spot, Dan, especially with Mudryk and Madueke and some other young wingers. He's played at all the biggest stages. He should be an asset for these up-and-coming wingers, if nothing else, to show them how to be a professional.
That's a good point. I think that there's also the thought that, if you have Nkunku coming in, that's another plus attacker into the side if you're losing a few others. And so it's just going to be interesting. I think Sterling would do well to continue to find a couple more goals between now and the end of the season. It's going to get harder than playing against Nottingham Forest, who were at one point a relegation-threatened side, much like us. When you have Newcastle and City and others left on the final end of the season here, it's not going to be as easy to kind of put that goal and that ball into the back of the net. So ultimately, good for him. Happy that he's scoring.
For sure. All right. Well, before we move on to some of the other stuff, we should acknowledge that Pochettino is in line to take the Chelsea job. Breaking. That's right. Exclusive story right here from London is Blue. No. Matt Law. What'd you say, Dan? What was the triumvirate? Matt, Daniel, and Fabrizio?
It's like the equivalent of the conclave of cardinals, essentially, and the white smoke coming out of the Sistine Chapel. If you can get Matt Law, Fabrizio, and David Ornstein to talk about it at the same time within minutes of each other, I will highlight, again, we like our friends. We enjoy the reporting that all of them do. We'll say Matt had the first tweet out on it. Just looking at the timestamps, want to credit where credit is due. I saw some people afterwards going with exclusive. You can't quote the exclusive after the tweet bomb has been dropped. That's just again, only trying to keep it straight for the record, Nick. I got to make sure that our guy Matt gets his due.
Yeah, I mean, no one's more connected to the Poch timeline than Matt is, and of course, we look forward to having him on the show. I think that will probably be a Tuesday pod for everyone who's listening to this, just to talk about the story and his experience. Again, Brandon and Matt did a pod special about a month ago, and
Bring it back.
We're getting part 2 this week, which will be good. But I mean, it's just a fucking relief to have it done and locked up. You have a manager who has a clear philosophy, who will get the entire summer to work with a hopefully much trimmed down team with some assets that are going to be required to make it better. And best of luck to him. There's a lot of work to do. Really, really hope that he comes in with a lot of energy and command and sets this team up in the way that he knows how. And that's all we can really ask for right now.
Dan, you have comments?
Well, someone had made the comment that in prior episodes, when we did something over another team or made another team feel less satisfied because of business that we had performed, that I went and found comments from supporters that are not Chelsea and read them and shared them. So I put on a hazmat suit. I made sure to purchase a brand new laptop for this that has now been thrown into a dumpster and lit on fire. Tiny little explosion, by the way. I went into Reddit's COYS, Come On You Spurs subreddit, and did find a couple of comments that are, people saying, Survivor for me. Levy is under more pressure than ever before. I didn't want to see Poch back, but my goodness, I'd rather have him back now than face another 2-month search for some bum. No Poch, no Nagelsmann. I mean, what the fuck are we doing here? Then you had Joe saves Tokyo with the timing, and with this and our Nagelsmann announcement is just spectacular. You couldn't write a bigger disappointment. Followed up by somebody saying, White Heart Pain 96. Wait until you hear that we lost today as well. So the hits just kept on coming for them. I will say, Hotspur _98 had the one that made me, I don't know, feel sad for them and also laugh at the same time. Broke my leg on Saturday last year. My ex broke up with me earlier that day. 100% I'd take that weekend again instead of this one.
Fuck.
Jeez.
Dark place for Spurs supporters right now.
Somehow, with everything that's going on this season, we are still having a slightly better run of it than Spurs. Absolutely.
And we're not getting into Europe next year. No, it just doesn't feel the same.
No.
All right. Well, tough day out for Spurs. We need to get our house in order to really double down, but making positive steps with Poch. Excited for that Matlaw update later this week. All right. So, Dan, the match. Here we go. Getting aggressive with the draw, but it's not a loss.
Well, look, I didn't feel like I had 4 options, so I went with Raheem as 1, Sterling as number 2, Trev as number 3, and then Chalobah as number 4. Look, sometimes you have to find a way to make a way to have fun with it. And look, Raheem Sterling combined, the two of them, with 66% of the vote. The remainder goes to young Trevoh Chalobah. Look, it felt pretty fair to me. I think Trev was mine personally, but
Trev was mine, yeah.
I think anytime a player gets a brace, you feel like that's gonna lead to a lot of people running up the score for them.
Yep, 2 goals. It's what the team needs. So, anyways, a couple of the results around the Premier League: Palace beating Bournemouth 2-0, Fulham beating Southampton 2-0. Are they officially down? Are we
officially down? Yeah, the whistle was at full time. You heard the boos in the stadium. It was very, very unfortunate for them.
Yeah,
we lost to them twice this season, so
I know.
Pretty cool.
We tried our hardest to keep them up.
We gave them like 25% of their points. Villa beating Tottenham 2-1. Chelsea drawing with Forest, as we know. United beating Wolves 2-0. Brentford 2-0 over West Ham. And Man City so far 3-0 over Everton. But the bottling continues as Arsenal are currently losing to Brighton. I could come back to be wrong in the 30 minutes that are left in this game. But as it stands, Arsenal really just slipping at the finish line with a Liverpool versus Newcastle. Oh, no, Liverpool versus Leicester tomorrow. Which
Newcastle versus Brighton midweek.
Yep, midweek
is the other match.
So relegation is still hot. The top 4 is still a little bit hot. If Liverpool win again, it's going to make it pretty spicy up there. But anyways, that's it. I mean, we're good. We don't need to talk about table. We don't need to talk about what's coming next, but it will be Man City for Chelsea next weekend. So really excited for that one. Matt Law, Cobham Crew, and Blue Royalty all coming this week. It's going to be jam-packed with the Poch news, so stay tuned. A lot more to come. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.